Jimmy Carr finally targeted by cancel culture for a joke that's not that bad.
Mr. Reagan.
In America, Joe Rogan is being targeted for cancellation. But in the UK, the same thing is happening. In Britain, it's a comedian by the name of Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr is finally being targeted by cancel culture for making a joke. Now, this targeting is in itself a real joke because Jimmy Carr is literally known for making offensive jokes.
Now, the comedian Jimmy Carr has been widely criticised for a disparaging joke about the death of thousands within the travelling community during the Holocaust.
The Holocaust was utilised to poke fun at one of the most marginalised groups in these islands, the Roma and the Gypsy community.
Is it time to cancel Jimmy Carr?
We are absolutely appalled at Jimmy Carr's comment. These are not experiences for mockery.
I'm appalled that anyone could laugh and joke about that.
And the fact that they laughed at this joke about gypsies and travellers reveals the prejudice that those groups still face.
Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries has got involved and essentially warned that her online safety bill would have done something about this joke.
I think the joke is horrible. It's incredibly disrespectful to members of the Gypsy, Roma and Traveller community. I think that Netflix should remove it.
Did you watch this episode?
I didn't watch it.
Until now, however, Jimmy has been somewhat protected. He's a strong leftist, and his most cruel jokes have primarily been reserved for those that cancel culture approves of criticizing. Christians, conservatives, Americans, and basically any other characteristic that describes me. Now, however, Jimmy Carr crossed a line. He made a joke about a group that the left in Britain is apparently very sensitive about. What was the group? What was the joke? I'll get into all of that in one moment. First, I have to sell you something. A newly discovered software flaw is possibly the most critical vulnerability of the last decade for anybody connected to the internet. This software vulnerability grants hackers, spies, and criminals easy access to customer data off countless enterprise-level websites. Security experts across the country are ringing the alarm, stating that everyone is at risk. But your privacy is in your own hands. And that's why I use Virtual Shield VPN every time I connect to the internet. Virtual Shield VPN helps protect my online data from hackers, data mining companies, my mobile carrier, my internet service provider, and even the alphabet agencies. The best part is that Virtual Shield is one of the very few VPNs with a strict no-log policy, meaning that they will not keep your search history stored on their servers. Now, I could not be more happy with the peace of mind that using a Virtual Shield VPN offers me. This month, I've partnered with the creators of Virtual Shield to give my audience 50% off for life and a free 30-day trial of Virtual Shield's VPN to celebrate the new year. Just go to virtualshield.com/Mr. Reagan or click on the link in the description below. Jimmy Carr is a bit of a bastard, but he's one of the funniest bastards ever to live. I've been a fan of Jimmy Carr for many years now, and if you've not checked out his comedy, I highly recommend it. Fair warning, Jimmy viciously ridicules conservatives, Trump, Americans, and as a bitter atheist, he attacks Christians and Christianity in the most vulgar and ruthless ways I have ever heard. That said, Jimmy Carr is essentially an equal opportunity offender. He will literally ridicule anyone and everyone that he can, including himself. If he thinks up a joke, he will tell that joke, no matter how offensive, how distasteful, or how morbid. I once had a relationship with a blind woman. It was very rewarding, but also quite challenging. It took me ages to get her husband's voice right. Jimmy Carr has built a brand around crossing the line, and that kind of dedication to the art of comedy is kind of rare, and I have enormous respect for it because these jokes aren't just provocative, they're good. Lots of comedians tell provocative jokes to get attention, but usually these comics are doing it because they're not actually that funny, and being vulgar is a good way to get attention. Jimmy doesn't do it because he has to. Jimmy does it because, above all, he respects the comedy. Comedy is his religion, and despite the fact that I might disagree with him on some philosophical and theological issues, I agree with his reverence for comedy, because what is comedy? Comedy is an art that has one purpose, and that is to make people laugh, to shine a ray of light into the darkness. If you're feeling down and you flick on the TV, what do you turn to in order to cheer you up? Comedy. If you're crying and somebody comforts you, one of the best things that they can do is to make you laugh. So although we often disregard comedy as the trade of psychologically damaged attention seekers, and it is that for sure, I don't think we always appreciate just how valuable good comedy is. And so despite the fact that Jimmy sometimes savagely attacks Christians and conservatives and Americans, I will fight just as savagely for his right to make those jokes. The left, however, does not agree with me. Although Jimmy has told literally hundreds of offensive jokes in his illustrious career, because he usually targets white people, conservatives, Christians, Americans, and himself, he gets away with it. I've heard him tell jokes about Muslims and Africans and whatnot, and he absolutely loves a good pedophilia joke. But it wasn't until he told a joke about gypsies that he finally got himself into a spot of trouble. So Jimmy's joke was told on his new Netflix special, which I watched when it first premiered. It's called His Dark Material. I absolutely loved it. This is fantastic. If you have Netflix, highly recommend watching this special. It's hilarious. The gypsy joke, I barely even noticed, to be honest. I mean, considering the nature of the rest of his special. But it went like this. When people talk about the Holocaust, they talk about the tragedy and the horror of 6 million Jewish lives being lost to the Nazi war machine. But they never mention the thousands of gypsies that were killed by the Nazis. No one ever wants to talk about that because no one ever wants to talk about the positives. It's such a good joke. It's such a good joke. Why would people want to cancel him for that? That's gold. No one ever wants to talk about the positives. Okay, hold on. Keep it together, Chris. You can finish this. All right. Now, you may be thinking, actually, that was pretty bad. And you're right. It was bad. That's the point. The joke isn't actually about the Holocaust. The joke isn't actually about gypsies. The joke is about Jimmy Carr's idiocy. It's a self-deprecating joke. Jimmy Carr knows that being racist is socially unacceptable. It's so unacceptable, in fact, that stating anything racist in public is utterly forbidden. He knows that any expression of racism is career-ending. And so saying that the attempted genocide of an entire race of people is positive, well, that goes beyond forbidden and into the utterly insane. And so anyone who doesn't understand that saying such a thing is socially unacceptable, well, they must be a full-fledged idiot. And that is why the joke is funny. Nobody but a complete idiot would say such an absurdly offensive thing. That is the joke. He's playing the idiot, and he's playing it totally straight without a hint of sarcasm. It's a self-deprecating joke. Even though he knows that we know that he's just pretending to be an idiot, the effect is still the same. We're all laughing at the idea of somebody saying that together. For those who think that Jimmy said anything offensive there, well, they just don't get comedy. And those people certainly shouldn't be deciding who gets to speak in society and who doesn't. In fact, those people are less intelligent than the idiot that Jimmy Carr is pretending to be. Because of YouTube's absurd copyright rules, I'm not going to play any of Jimmy's jokes here, but I will read some. I'm going to read you some of the best horrible jokes that Jimmy Carr has ever told. Now, I don't have the brilliant delivery of Jimmy nor the British accent, but nevertheless, I do hope that this will inspire you to look up this great comedian. I don't like swearing during sex. Who wants to hear that kind of language? Especially from a child. I saw a transvestite in a miniskirt. I thought, that shows a lot of balls. A lot of people like to smoke cigarettes after sex, but in Britain, you can only buy cigarettes when you're 16, so I have to get them for both of us. My wife insisted that I list every woman I'd ever been with, so I started with the woman that I lost my virginity to, and I worked my way all the way up to her. That is where I should have stopped. When I was in school, a buddy of mine got caught wanking in the showers. It ruined our school trip to Auschwitz. I mean, as you can see, these are all pretty horrific. I mean, this is Jimmy's thing. But anyway, let me keep going here. If you want to get a girl's attention, just compliment them. Like, wow, you're a fast runner. You almost got away. All right. It's very easy to distract a fat person. It's a piece of cake. I can do a brilliant Michael Jackson impersonation. I just need a young volunteer who can keep a secret. Hitler has been judged very harshly by history, But in the end, he did kill Hitler. Dwarves are often overlooked. I can say that because they look up to me. I got talking to a native African girl. For hours, we just clicked. You have to be familiar with certain kinds of African languages for that to be funny. Anyway, I don't like to spend too much time with my girlfriend's family. Her husband is getting suspicious. They say there's safety in numbers. Yeah, tell that to 6 million Jews. I saw a charity appeal in The Guardian the other day. It read, "Little Zuki has to walk 13 miles a day just to fetch water." I couldn't help thinking, she should move. Wetting your bed as a child is embarrassing, but as an adult, wetting a child's bed is mortifying. Oh, that joke's so messed up. All right, let's see. So many of these are so messed up. When discussing the Saturday Night Live comedian Pete Davidson, whose father died on 9/11, Jimmy said, "I am appalled that people would come here and make jokes about the sacrifice Pete's heroic father made on 9/11. This is not the roast of Pete Davidson's father. That was in 2001. You do not get a more reprehensible joke than that. When asked to tell the most offensive joke he'd ever written, Jimmy said, "If only Africa had more mosquito nets, then every year we could save millions of mosquitoes dying needlessly of AIDS." I love that joke. That's one of my favorites. Well, that's it for me. And remember, it's not that our liberal friends are ignorant, it's just that they know so much that is not so. Good night.
President Washington began this tradition in 1790 after reminding the nation that the destiny of self-government is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. For our friends in the press who place a high premium on accuracy, let me say, I did not actually hear George Washington say that.